You're listening to Finding Your Genius Zone with Dirk Nevelle. With the help of successful individuals across industries, Dirk breaks down the unknown parts of every vocation while highlighting the importance of finding a career where you can leverage your natural skills, passions, and interests. Now here's your host, Dirk Nevelle.
Hey everybody, this is Dirk Nevelle. On with me today is Billy Pohl. Billy, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Dirk. Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Okay, so this is Billy's in commercial real estate. And what's interesting is when I was coming out of college, I would say 60% of my buddies got into this industry. And I think that was a big reason I didn't want to. I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. And I'm not saying that's not a good reason or not. That was just my reason. But Billy is a guy that I've known for a long time. And I don't know exactly how we met, but Billy married a amazing woman that I grew up with a little bit, Rika. And I remember when you guys got married, I was like, what a great, not after getting to know you, I'm like, what a great combination in terms of two people that are perfectly aligned to be together. But anyway, Billy's a really well diverse. He's got a lot of interest, an athletic guy, funny guy, he's just a dude you want to hang out with and have a beer. And I'm really excited to have you on.
Thanks.
I'll stop rambling. I want to talk a little bit, obviously, about what it is you do. So if you were, I know that you love to play tennis, or you're going to Palm Springs, sitting on the plane, and someone sits next to you and they say, hey, what do you do? How would you answer that?
First thing I would say, I'd love to play tennis, but then I would ask them, do you also play pickleball? Because that seems to be a new passion these days, along with half the other country.
Yep.
I'm a commercial real estate broker. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I have done a lot of different things leading up to commercial real estate. But similar to you, Dirk, I purposely avoided commercial real estate early in my career. My father was in the business. Later, when I dated and then married Rika Piha, her dad was a long timer in the business as well. And I always felt like commercial real estate was interesting and a dynamic industry, but because my family was in it and my father-in-law was in it, I knew I always wanted to blaze my own trail. And so I basically did that until I was involved with a high-tech company, GoToNet, back in the internet days. And then after I left there, I was looking to just kind of do my own thing and develop long-term relationships and be in an industry where I really could have my own schedule, work with the people I want to work with, and just to have more control over what the final destiny was going to be. And so through kind of the process, my father-in-law basically pitched me one day and said, look, I can't believe you're not in this business. Why don't you just try it for a year? And that, as it turns out, was 20 years ago. And I'm fortunate. I do a lot of different things in the business. The easiest way to describe it is I work with buyers and sellers, landlords and tenants. So I do I wear all four of those hats, as well as the investment hat, because I certainly invest in real estate and help people do that. But it's just one of those industries that just kind of fit my personality. It's dynamic and it's always changing. And I like a lot of variety. I like a lot of variety in athletics. I like a lot of variety in friends and activities and different things. And this was a business that kind of just felt like the most natural fits of anything I've really ever done. And it's been 20 years. I can't imagine that I would really do anything else at this point in my life, because I get to do all those different things. And it's really fun. And it's been amazing. Been an amazing journey in commercial estate.
I forgot the GoToNet days because I was in technology. I was at
I remember that.
Yeah. The guys, Activate, broadcast.com, Yahoo. So we kind of have a similar.
Maybe even where we met originally was through some of those guys at Activate or something like that. So,
Shock, Maskell, probably. So I want to go deep on commercial real estate, but before I do, I want to go backwards a little bit. And I know I should know this. I apologize. Where did you go to college again?
I went to a small liberal arts school called Colorado College.
Yes. And that's the one
Colorado Springs.
That's where you take one class for like 6 weeks, right?
Exactly. Yep. 3.5 weeks. You take a final and you have 4.5 days off.
Yeah, my brother had a buddy, Dan Hallisey, and he went there, and I remember like, what a great idea. Like
Yeah.
get submerged. Okay, so you were there and you grew up Mercer Island?
I grew up in South Seattle, so Mount Baker
Oh,
neighborhood.
okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, God, that's funny. I somehow I thought it was MI.
I
Okay,
know.
so you're coming
Everybody
out of
thinks I'm MI just because we've lived on Mercer Island for
Okay.
almost 20 years. And, I was there a lot playing tennis and doing stuff growing up. But no, I'm a Seattle kid.
That's why I was thinking with the tennis. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
coming out of school, and then did you just get right into technology? Is that kind of what happened?
Not at all. No, I started early in high school. Believe it or not, I started working for Schwartz Brothers restaurants. And I worked through high school. I always liked to work, and through high school, and then every summer in college, and then even after college, I worked for Schwartz Brothers. So I've done everything, I've done every front of the house position you can do in a restaurant. From starting, making espresso and sandwiches at Cafe Casino, which became Schwartz Brothers Delicatessen, to running a fish and chip stand, which was Benji Fish and Chips, to working in Benjamin's. And then I worked at Cucina as a waiter for 4.5 years. And so, yeah, my background was really in the hospitality business, working for Schwartz Brothers.
Yeah,
So.
I did a lot of restaurant jobs as well.
Yeah.
Great training for life too, by the way.
The best.
It is. Okay, so then you got into technology. We have a similar background. And the thing about Billy, and Billy knows the audience could be mostly younger. Maybe you're in your 30s, your 40s, but you said something that I think is really, really important. Is so like when I left Yahoo, I thought I wanted to be a psychologist, so I went back to school to work with young kids. So
Yeah.
I was doing night school to get my doctorate. And oh, by the way, I needed to make money because I was getting married.
Right.
So I fell into a job like, okay, I know a lot of people. I think most of them like me. I don't really want to travel. So I fell into lending, which is, a job where anyone I bump into could be a client potentially.
Yep.
And the thing about Billy that I think is really important is he's a very likable guy. He knows a lot of people. And he could be the smartest guy, but if he didn't know anybody, didn't have a network, then, his success might be minimized for a while at least. But the thing that you have to pay attention to is this, in my opinion, if you're interested in commercial real estate, you got to know people. You really do. You got to have a relationship. They got to know who you are. And that's okay if you're not the most popular guy in the city, but you got to at least start somewhere. So I think that's really an important thing to listen to. And Billy was very dialed in, and you can tell, in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, he's a likable guy.
Thank you.
So getting into the business itself. Okay. So I get a little confused. So I have friends that are just on the listing side, and we're talking about commercial properties, not residential.
Correct. All commercial. So, office, warehouse, retail, multifamily. Right.
Okay.
I don't do anything related to homes the smallest I deal with are, maybe apartment buildings that are 10 units or more, but I do not mess around with residential real estate.
Which is where I am.
Exactly.
Okay. So you have people, and this is where I get confused. I know you have people like Broderick Group, for example, they do listing.
Yep.
And then you have people that don't do listing. They represent
Tenants
buyers.
or buyers. Yep.
And then you have people that list to sell buildings and then also just to lease space in the building. And the same thing for buyers. And then you have people that maybe do both.
Yep, you do.
Am I missing any flavor?
Not really. It's interesting in this business because some people purposely specialize in either a particular product type. So maybe you're an industrial guy or gal, and you want to do it, and maybe you specialize in a geographic region as well, right? So there are people here and really successful guys in our company that are industrial and South End, right? So they do everything south of Renton all the way down to Algona, let's say. There are some people that say, I'm going to just specialize in only representing tenants, right? Whether it's office or industrial, or maybe they represent retail tenants, right? You work with some local companies, or you grab onto some franchisees and you do all their site selection work. So there the thing I love about real estate too is you can decide, like, do you want to represent tenants? Do you want to represent landlords or maybe families with their portfolios? Do you want to do a particular product type? Do you want to do a particular geographic area? I mean, there's a lot of different schools of thought on how to do that. Some people say the best way to do this business is specialize, specialize, specialize. I've taken a different approach. It's kind of the approach that I learned from my mentors, my father-in-law being one, and then now my partner, Dean Alteris, who's been my brokerage partner for 15 years. And we're generalists in the business. We figure we have good real estate knowledge. We know we know a little about a lot of different things. We're not as dialed in and know as much about one particular area, but we know a fair amount about a lot of different things. So we wear the generalist hat in what we do. And I like that because in any negotiation, right, if I'm representing a tenant, I know exactly what the landlord hat looks like because I wear that hat too. And when I'm selling property, and we do a fair amount on the listing side of selling properties for families and small businesses, I know exactly how to look at it from the buyer's perspective because I'm representing buyers as well. So I think that's kind of our secret sauce, is that we can really know all angles of the business. And at the end of the day, we're matchmakers, right? We're bringing together needs and putting things together and trying to make, transactions happen. And, like I was saying before, it's dynamic and it's interesting. And I think that's a way that we provide really good value to our clients, is by being that generalist type of commercial real estate broker.
So you're kind of talking about the pros of being a generalist, correct?
Yep.
Can you are there cons as well?
I mean, the cons are maybe you don't know as much about, like, let's say somebody's looking at retail in a very specific submarket, in a smaller area. I'm not going to know as much as somebody that's the only area that they farm.
Okay.
Right. If that's their area, they'll know every ownership, every deal going on, this and that. And like I was saying, I know a little bit about a lot of things, and I can especially with technology, you can find out information pretty quickly these days. And I'm fortunate because I have a big network of brokers here in our company. I mean, we're the third largest brokerage company on the West Coast. So if I need to learn or figure out something pretty quickly, I've got the people and the resources to do that. Yeah. The other con is just some people say, hey, you know a lot about King County, but I need somebody to know a lot about something in Snohomish County or whatever. And so I'm not always the right fit. And that's, again, part of the beauty of this business is, I'm not the right fit for everybody, but when we are the right fit, it's the right fit. I mean, it totally works.
I always talk about dating. Dating is like so perfect in life. Like it's the same thing. You date the wrong way, you're going to end up with the wrong person. So what about like someone that's younger and they're like, I think I love real estate but how does is it just a matter of dating the industry and then gravitating towards, whether you like industrial or mobile home parks or apartment buildings or strip malls or restaurants or whatever? Like, how does someone that's getting into the business figure it out? Or does it just take time?
I think there's a couple of things. And I've talked to several people about this, even recently, a couple of kids that go to school with my daughter at Wisconsin that are thinking about commercial real estate. I mean, the best thing a young person can do is really get mentored by somebody that loves this business and can expose them into a lot of different areas of the business. I don't think as a young person, if you necessarily like retail maybe you naturally gravitate towards something. So if you worked in restaurants, maybe then you gravitate towards retail. Or if you worked in an office, in one of your college jobs, maybe a college environment is something you like or you're interested in office. But I think the best thing to do is just work in an environment or work under someone, whether it's a runnership program or start with an internship or do something where you get exposed to a lot of the different areas of the business, and to ask for it. Just say, hey, I don't know what I want to do in the business, but I know that I'm interested in it and I want to learn as much as I can about as many areas as possible. The biggest detriment to people getting into this business is commercial real estate is it's great because you don't have a ceiling of what your income potential is, right? But in the first couple of years, you really don't make much money at all. I mean, I don't care who you are, you can't make what you can't make what you could in technology as a new commercial real estate broker, unless you just happen to get so lucky that a huge deal fell into your lap. I tell people, I mean, you really have to view this as you're building a snowball, but you're starting with a few snowflakes at a time. And those snowflakes will start to compound and build on themselves. But the first couple of years are the hardest couple of years. You're most likely going to get exposed to farming an area, do a lot of cold calling, you're starting to build your network, you're doing all that stuff. It's not always easy. It's a lot of hours. You're not getting well paid, but you almost have to have that. You almost have to just know that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you believe that it's going to work out, it probably will. Yeah. And it will work out, but you can't get discouraged like after a year and a half going, God, I just can't make any money doing this, because maybe you even have to supplement it with something else in those first couple of years by, working extra on weekends and doing something where you have an hourly side gig or something like that. But I will tell you, if you're the kind of personality and you like people and you genuinely like helping people and you have their best interest at heart, you can ramp up pretty darn quickly in this business, and you forget about how lean those first couple of years were, because suddenly after year 3, 4, or 5, that snowball is rolling and you're really starting to make, you're making a good living, hopefully doing something that you're really enjoying at the same time.
Yeah, I think you went right into some great advice. I would say, I think a lot of times I'll speak for myself. I was so quick to expedite success. Like I had a dad who's all about money, and, older brother making money. And like, I was just so quick to get out there. And I think it's important for people that are like, but you got to pay the dues, because you got to look at your life in 15, 20, 30 years down the road, whether it's being a doctor. I had one guy who wanted to be a doctor, but he was scared to go to medical school. But you have to have a long-term vision of where you want to be. Yep. And then the other thing you were talking about is you got to want to help people, like people. But I know there's other skill sets. A lot of my buddies I mentioned are in this business. So at some point, you differentiate yourself from guys like, Broderick Group or Kip Durrell or whoever. What is it about Billy? Like, what is it that, like, where did the skill sets like come into play? Or is it just based off of relationships? I really like Billy. I know him. I trust him. I hang out with him. I play pickleball with him. What separates guys from, you've got a lot of good talent, but what separates the good talent from each other?
It's a great question, Dirk, because I think at the end of the day, it really does come down to relationships with people and how people relate to one another. Because we're all, there's so many good people in this business. And that's, again, one of the things I love about it. People are competitive, right? You get a lot of athletes in this business that have that competitive instinct. But we're all, by and large, looking at the same information. And when you've been doing this for a long time, you kind of know who the players are, because it's 80% of the business is done by 20% of the people. It's the 80-20 rule. I think for me, what differentiates, when I'm going head to head with other brokers, and again, it's an interesting business because it's a competitive, collaborative business, right? I might compete for a project. Let's say I'm competing for a listing to sell a development site in Seattle on Capitol Hill. The 3 other people I'm competing with are probably, if I get the listing, one of the deals is probably going to come from one of the brokers I competed with, right? So you always are walking kind of a fine line. We're competing with each other, but then we're collaborating with each other, right? So one day we're, trying to get the listing. The next day we're trying to put the deal together. So I think, I think people that have been doing this for a while know that you just, I think you have to have your best interest for other people at heart, because chances are, I mean, if you don't get it, somebody else does, you're going to be working together again. And I think, we're all kind of doing the same thing. We all have very similar skill sets, I would say. I think what differentiates me and my partner, Dean Alteris, and I, is that I think we really care. I think we care about people. I think I've been doing this for 20 years. Dean's been doing it for close to 35 years. And I think anybody that's worked with us knows that, we're going to try our best for our clients, and we're going to always have their best interest at heart. And we'll talk a lot of people out of not doing deals because we feel like that's the right thing to do. And so I don't think there's any one thing like, I do that much better than the guys at Kidder Matthews or CBRE or Colliers or whatnot. I think it's just at the end of the day, even when I'm going on a listing presentation, I tell people we're all doing the same job, but it's a very intimate job in the sense that you work a lot of hours with people, especially on big projects. And at the end of the day, I tell people, decide on who you'd like to just spend that much more time with, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. You want it to be a pleasant experience, right? And so I just tell people, work with who you know, like, and trust and feel the best working with. I think that's really at the end of the day, the differentiator.
I love it. So talk to me about anything that's, and I want to hear the bad too, if possible. I know you're a positive guy, but anything like good and bad that caught you off guard. Like, you're a smart guy, you knew what you're getting into, you had friends and family in the business, but now that you've been in it, what, 20 something years?
Yeah, 20 years.
Okay, so like anything you're like, whoa, I didn't see this coming, and I don't like this part about the job, or God, I really love this part of the job, I didn't think this was part of it. Like, is there anything you can point to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate it hasn't happened many times, but I can't say that it hasn't happened. Is, you do a lot of work for someone and you feel like, yeah, I'm their guy. Like, there's no question. You do several transactions, their families, you've helped them become successful. And then one day, let's say you help them buy several pieces of real estate. One day you realize, oh, they worked with somebody else to buy a piece of real estate. And you think, what about me? I mean, we have this great relationship, but things happen. I mean, people have lots of relationships in their lives. And I think that part still hurts sometimes. But at the same time, I think I think you learn to live with it, but it still hurts when it happens, right? That you feel like, God, I mean, we have such a great relationship, yet why did you feel the need to work with someone else? And again, a lot of that can be circumstantial, right? Yeah. Somebody takes them a deal and they're like, well, I'll just do it with this person because they brought me the deal. I don't need to bring Billy in because, he always helped me find other deals and this and that. And that happens.
Real quick, I want to touch on that because this is the stuff that I like to get into. So lack of loyalty is really one of the things that I can't, it's hard for me, right?
It's really hard. Even
when your family decides not to use you, but, and I'm not speaking from personal, but I've seen it all. So, but what's interesting is, okay, so you're watching this and you're like, okay, I get loyalty, whatever, but realize that the kind of job or profession career that you get into. So I'm in real estate lending. And in my opinion, a much more commoditized business than yours. We're not far away from one-touch lending where you can, do it with an automation, whatever. So I lose a lot of business, because it's very commoditized. But now you take your career, I guess what I'm Tommy boying this. I'm not saying it very well, but the lack of loyalty, I think, diminishes based off of the career. Like in my business, it's easy to go find another lender. In your business, you can go find another Billy, but if you're a brain doctor working on someone's child and you're one of the best, chances are you're going to be friggin' loyal to that person. So be aware of the industry you're in and the competition and how, if you're a financial planner, chances are if you get a client, they're going to stick with you. That's harder to break that loyalty. So just pay attention to the loyalty part. What about something that you love about your job that you didn't see coming?
I love, well, it's not that I didn't see it coming. I guess I just didn't realize how much I would love this aspect of it. I love the flexibility with my job. I love the fact that I don't have a boss telling me what I need to work on every day. I don't have somebody telling me how many hours I need to work a week. I don't have somebody telling me when I need to come in the office and when I need to go home from the office. I love the fact that I can schedule, time is a very precious commodity, especially as we get older, and I'm in control of my time and my schedule. And that has enabled me to do a lot of the other things that have made this. I love to use this saying with commercial real estate. Commercial real estate is a great way to make a living, and it's an awesome way to make a life, right? It allows me to coach. It allows me to take vacations when I want to. It allows me, if I want to surprise my daughter and go to Madison, Wisconsin and show up for the weekend, I can do that. I mean, I just can do those things because I have a lot of flexibility with this. I don't have employees. I have clients, and that there's a big difference in that. And I don't have warehouses with inventory that I'm constantly worrying about. I have an inventory of deals I'm working on with the clients that I'm helping.
I love it.
That flexibility, I think, has been probably the best thing that I never really thought about. The second is just Dean and I were at a smaller company. We were at Morris PR Real Estate Services when I first started. We were there for 10 years. My father-in-law used to say, God, you guys have outgrown this place. You need to be in a bigger environment. You need to be around more people, doing more deals that are just in the know of what's happening in the market. And when we came over to NAI Puget Sound Properties, we knew a lot of the brokers, really liked the people. There's really no ego in this company with people. And I love the fact that we came to this company and we've just been invited to work on a lot of different things with a lot of the different brokers here. That's something Dean and I never expected, right? We kind of had our book of business and with the clients that we have, and coming here has just truly just expanded our universe in terms of the things we've gotten involved with.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of time left. I want to really get in on. So walk us through or explain to us, and you can say it in any way you want, but if I don't know much about commercial real estate and I'm listening to you, I'm curious, does Billy have 10 clients and does he, I know that you typically get paid per deal, so it's not a recurring revenue stream or annuity based income. Talk to us about the frequency of how you're compensated, and I know it depends. A good market, you could be super busy, but is it normal to be working 20 deals, and do deals average, can they take a month or 2 years or what?
I mean, again, Dirk, you're asking great questions, right? And like a lot of things in real estate, it depends. If I break down kind of our type of business, if I'm representing tenants and doing retail leasing, site selection work, at any given time, I'm probably working on, 4, 5, 6 requirements at a time. And those deals can take anywhere from a month to a year and a half, 2 years to find the right areas. The deals themselves, there's just kind of a process of how the deals go, right? There's, doing the survey, looking for the properties, then going out and, touring the properties. And then from that, filtering the list, then writing proposals, and then working on those proposals. So on average, it probably takes, once you identify properties that you like, a few months to work through the proposal and then lease stage.
Okay.
And that, again, that's one of the reasons that I like wearing different hats, is because the leasing is just kind of it's always happening, right? There's always leasing going on. The sales side is so interesting because sales generally take, at a minimum 60 to 90 days and a maximum a couple years.
You're talking about selling the actual structure.
Selling the actual structure, exactly.
Okay.
So leasing is, either on the tenant side or the landlord side. Those are reoccurring. So we do on average, probably between my partner and I, we probably do 30, 32 leases a year. something like that. So on a monthly basis, it's a couple leases get done per month.
Mm-hmm.
And then on sales, that can vary anywhere from 2 to 10 or 15. And those can vary anywhere from 60 to 90 days to a couple years. Don't forget, one of the things that is hard about this business, and going back to your question before, is you can work a long time on a deal and the deal doesn't get done.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's no fault of yours. And maybe the hardest thing that I always had to learn, and even after 20 years, it still can be hard, is that at the end of the day, I'm not the one signing the contract, right? My client does that. And so I can do everything within my power to get the deal teed up, ready to go. But the completion of the deal comes from them, not from me. And things unravel for a lot of different reasons. So I think you've got to be the type of person that just has perseverance. And you got to believe that, hey, if the deal doesn't come together, if I have a good relationship with my client, another deal will come together with that client. It didn't happen on this one, but something else will happen. That's a hard thing to understand and truly believe sometimes when you spend, I've spent a year and a half, 2 years on a sale that at the last minute in the last week fell apart. And it's hard. I mean, you're invested in this for a lot of hours and a lot of time and a lot of energy, and then it doesn't come together. But it goes back down to the fundamentals. If you have a good relationship with your client, even if the deals fall apart, other deals come together, and you have to just persevere. And I'm not going to say that you ever totally get used to it, but you get more used to it. You can never count on a paycheck, in this business, because it's all commission, 100% commission. You never can count on cashing the check till literally it's in your pocket.
Yeah, I hear you. So like if you're selling, that's a one-time compensation, right? When it
Correct.
closes. And if you're leasing, let's just say there's a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease or whatever, and then that renews, is that a second hit compensation wise?
It can be. I mean, the way it works with leases, let's just say it's a 5-year lease. The broker gets paid generally half when the lease is signed, half when the tenant is open for business. Okay. So of the value of the lease, and the percentages change according to the type of business that you're doing. But then if the tenant renews, sometimes landlords will pay an outside commission to help the tenant renew. Sometimes they don't, but still, as a broker, you want to stay in touch with that client. You just don't want to love them and leave them, right? You get the transaction done, but you stay with them because you never know kind of what direction their business is heading into. And there's always opportunity to help.
So you and I both love sports, and like, I've always kind of, this is a random direction, but it's just coming up in my head. I wanted to talk about it. Like, I'm always intrigued by like the elite, like what separates people. Like, what is it about Quinn Snyder that made him so damn good about, what I mean? Like, I know he's good at this or whatever. Like in your world, you talk about, there's a lot of talented people, likable, competitive, gritty, whatever but is there like something different, like having like market knowledge or an awareness or a gut on where, I mean, in my business, people have guts on where the market and rates are going, but is there something else like that you've seen? Like, oh my God, is there like a person, and you don't have to name the name, but is there something that elevates somebody over the rest based on something that's intrinsic to who they are, other than just they're well connected and they know, the owner of this huge company, whatever? Is there something other than just being a good guy, an honest guy, like, or is it really just come down to that?
I mean, there's a few people I can think of in this business that have been immensely successful. And I think, are they that much better actual brokers than anyone else? I don't know that that's necessarily the case. They're very good at what they do. Industry knowledge, their follow-up skills, their reading, writing skills are very, I would consider excellent.
Okay.
But also, let's face it. I mean, I think some of the people that work with some of the biggest clients will also say, they have great perseverance, and they also maybe got lucky, right? There's luck involved. in all of this, right? I don't ever know when I start working with someone, how far this business might go. And there's been some people that have helped, these really small incubating technology companies that have grown up to be these huge mammoth companies. And if you're with them from the beginning, are you that much better of a broker because, you happen to represent, this huge technology company than someone else? Well, you're probably a really good relationship building, follow through person that was fortunate enough to help someone in the beginning stages that was probably a brilliant person that could, grow this company.
Yeah.
And I do think, though, that the best of the best in this business they're not only personable, but they work really hard, they work really smart, and they're really good follow through people. Their follow through is excellent, and that's what I've seen as a differentiator. I mean, I can't believe it, and I hope I'm not insulting anyone when I say this, but I can't believe after 20 years being in this business, how many successful brokers there are that really just aren't good about returning phone calls. That to me just seems like, that's a no-brainer. Our job is to just call people back.
Yeah, I get it.
But I don't see them being that good, but yet they're doing a lot of business. So, who knows with that?
So while we wind this thing down, I am curious, okay, you've given a lot of really great information, and being so close to guys that do what you do, it's funny. There's a lot of this stuff I don't know, but walk to me, you're in front of people, articulate the day, the week. What's it look like? If you were to a piece of pie and carve out 80% of my time is out talking to people, being in front of people, 20% is researching, whatever. What does the average week look like for you?
Well, as you know, Dirk, the first and best, most important part of my day is always going to the Bellevue Club first thing in the morning. I'm a huge believer in that because I think healthy habits make for more healthy habits in life. And so I'm just a believer that starting off the day, clearing the mind, doing exercise, being social, that kind of just gets me warmed up for the day. So now, and if I look at my schedule, that's the very early part of my day. Then I'm generally in the office, responding to some emails or doing stuff, getting caught up in that morning emails. I have anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 meetings a day with people. And it can be, going over a survey of property. It can be talking about a lease negotiation. It can be touring different properties, walking a development site, even meeting with contractors, with clients. Those, there aren't that many days when I don't have either a lunch or a coffee with someone or some sort of interactive meeting, face to face. In fact, if I have a day when I have no face-to-face meetings, I always feel a little antsy, like, God, I'm not doing what I really love to do. But occasionally there are days when I just have to write proposals or I have to put together a marketing piece with my admin team here. And, I spend the whole day in the office. But generally I'm in the office maybe a third of the time, 30 to 40% of the time.
Okay.
But I also like that too, because I can just have a chance to see the other people in the office. But I would say, somebody asked me the other day, if you were a dog, what kind of dog would you describe that you are? And what kind of dog makes for a good broker in commercial real estate? And I would say, without even thinking about it too much, it's a golden retriever. Mm-hmm. Right? You're just kind of a golden retriever. You just like people. You like being out there. You like giving people attention. You like getting a little attention. You just that kind of personality. You're friendly. That. So I like to just go out there and be a golden retriever.
Yeah, and I bet you're a good one. Everything you're describing is what I would think of. If I didn't know you and I got to had coffee with you, I'd be like, this guy is in the perfect career for himself. As far as those meetings, let's just say you do 2 or 3 a day. Are those no prep meetings, or are you spending an hour of research, or is it just off the cuff, chit chat? Is there do you have to prepare for these, or are these meetings that you're just shooting
Yeah,
the shit with someone?
it depends. I mean, if it's a meeting when let's say I get a referral from someone, I like to make as a rule of thumb, I don't want to work with someone. And nowadays it's easy to just talk to somebody on the phone or answer a couple of emails back and forth. I like to sit down with somebody and just get to know them. So if I'm having like a get to know from a referral of somebody that might need my help, maybe I'll look at their LinkedIn page or go to their website, get to know the business a little bit, but then I don't do much more prep. I just want to keep an open mind and get to know them. If I'm sitting down with someone and, going over a lease proposal or, we're looking at a bunch of different sites, then yes, there's a lot of preparation that goes with that. I mean, you do have to do a fair amount of research in this job too, as far as getting pricing information, and a lot of it is just talking with other brokers and getting kind of the insights to relay that over to my clients.
Yep.
And that just comes with time and knowing how to do that over time.
So one thing I'm thinking about, like, it's a small town, really, you know that, right?
Totally.
Not only are you representing your clients, but I would think there's also an art of being easy to work with, not like a pushover, but not being like that dude that, oh, you don't want to do a deal with Billy. Right. Right. So you're almost selling to your competition, right?
That's the competitive, collaborative element of this business.
Yeah, yes. For sure.
And look, at the end of the day, I think you could say this in your business, Dirk, and a lot of people could say this. At the end of the day, you really only have your name and your reputation in this business. Sure, you have the knowledge and the experience, but at the end of the day, that's what's most important, is just building. You're building your personal brand, more or less. What you want, and I would hope this is the case with most of the people that I work with, especially brokers, I want, when they see my name on the phone, they want to pick it up because I'm not going to waste their time. They should know that because we've worked together and want to talk to me. That's the hope. That's what you're trying to always build.
No, I love it. Two questions and we'll wind this down. One, is there a question that I haven't asked you that you being in the business and in the career, that's like, if we're talking to an audience that's thinking about, a young woman, a young man trying to get into your world, is there anything that I haven't asked that's important, or anything on tip of your tongue as far as advice?
I think you've asked some really great questions. Sometimes people ask me, if I wasn't doing this, if I hadn't kind of found this because I went from restaurants to, I was actually in the beer importing business for a little bit. Then I went technology with GoToNet. Then I did a radio stint real quick, selling advertising. Is there anything else that maybe I wish that I had done, in this? There's always a part of me that thinks like broadcasting would have been fun, like being on radio or doing what you're doing, or, that kind of thing, doing a podcast would be really interesting. Or like for me, like having a talk show host, being a talk show host and having a talk show. I always thought that would be like a really cool gig. But, I just feel really fortunate that I kind of found this, and I'm glad I found it when I found it, right? If I'd gotten in this business straight out of college, I don't know for sure if I'd be doing this now. And because when you're young, I think you should try some different things. If you think the grass is greener on the other side, then go see if the grass is truly greener. And maybe it is for your particular skill set. Or maybe it's not, but I think you need to try. I think sometimes you learn from what you don't like as a part of the journey to get to what you do like. And like for me, having a varied background and, doing 4 or 5 things before I got into real estate, now looking back on it, I realize how holistic it made this job for me, and all the things that I learned by doing the other things really helped me, in this particular job.
Yeah,
so,
I love that. And that's the battle with this podcast, Billy, is life. Take action, live life. It's like dating. Go date and see what you like. But I do think that I would like to see younger adults, and we both have kids, pay attention to those things that light them up, that, make them a better version. Like when you come home, and Rika notices you're in a really good mood, like what is it? What'd you just do? Like what happened? Like
Right.
I think taking inventory, because we're all different. You and I are
Yep.
similar, but yet we're different. And we all have different things that light us up. And I think I would personally like to see more people in alignment with those skills and those passions in their career. Because I think a lot of people, frankly, don't like what they do, which is kind of the reason I started this podcast. And my last question, you just friggin' answered it already. I was like, what's your dream job? And sounds like, is it a talk show host?
I think that would be an absolute blast.
What would you talk about? Like anything?
Anything. I don't think I would have like one particular, and and who knows, maybe I'll join you someday, Dirk, and we'll do it together. We'll just interview people, but I just think, I just love people. I love people's story. I love learning about people. I just love how we're walking around every day and everybody has such a different story, in their life and what makes people tick. And I love learning that about people, and I think, being a talk show host would give me an opportunity to just ask those questions for people.
I love it. You'd be good at it. You'd be really good at it.
It would be fun, but in a way, in my own way, I get to do it with this too, because I ask people a lot of questions and I just like to learn. If I can say one thing to young people, it's enjoy the process of learning, because it's something that you never, ever stop doing in your life. And college, I think, is learning how to learn, because after college is, then it's the real world, and the real world is, an opportunity to learn a lot about what you like and a lot about what you don't like. But
I just had that convo with my daughter who's going to college next year, and she kind of said, do I need to go to college? And she wasn't not wanting to, but I'm like, it's a good question. College isn't for everybody, but I think that's an opportunity to learn, how to learn about managing your time, your day. I'm totally with you on that. So anyways, we'll work on a talk show for you, Billy. I really appreciate you taking the time. You're an awesome guy. I'm honored to call you a friend, and you were great. And I think you gave a lot of really good information that's going to be super helpful. So thank you.
I hope so. And I always like being a resource for people that, if people get connected with your podcast and they might, have questions or help, need help or thinking about this as an industry, I just put myself out there that I'm happy to help people that are considering this as a career.
Yeah. You'd be great at that. Billy, have a good day. I know you got a meeting coming up. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, Dirk. Great to see you, my man.
Thanks,
see you
buddy.
later.
All right.
Bye.